Good morning, good afternoon to everybody in the webinar. A warm welcome from the White Label Alliance to this webinar introducing the White Label Alliance. For the records, we're recording today's session and we'll make it available to you. All participants are muted. If you have any questions, we ask you kindly to add the questions to the questions box in the GoToWebinar tool. And we're looking forward to address as many questions as possible after the presentation. With that, I would like to introduce and hand over to the first speaker, Jacques Doucerin, the President of WLA. Jacques, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much and welcome all. Jacques Doucerin, WLA Director representing founding member IDEMIA. Sitting alongside with me and hosting this webinar are Charalampos Karagiannis, Board Director representing Giesecke and Devrient, and Gerald Schaffler, Board Director as well, representing NXP Semiconductors. Very pleased to be with you all this morning, this afternoon, and to introduce the White Label Alliance Association. Next slide. In the session, you will learn what WLA is, what makes the initiative rather unique in the payment landscape, what it brings, and how it operates. Before entering into details, let me first share some of the rationale and driving forces that led to the very idea of WLA and what animated WLA founding members through the journey of creating the association. Let's first jump back in time where actually EMV started. Next slide, please. So EMV was made the dominant and de facto standard for open loop payments by making promises and fulfilling these promises, in particular in security, for the promises for security in payments, fraud reduction, and interoperability. Leveraging standards by EMVCo, contact-only EMV payment solution have enabled payment brands worldwide to massively spread EMV, in particular POS devices across the globe were all equipped with a universal EMV layer that enabled contact cards to operate on a terminal, and by the way, still do, regardless of their brand. Among the list of payment applications that were developed based on EMV, EMVCo Common Payment Application, CPA, card application, has been a boost to the adoption of EMV for many domestic brands worldwide that were turning to a technology that would enable quick and cost-efficient deployments. Next slide. So the story could have stopped here, yet we know it obviously did not, with the explosion of contactless payments. We know in particular how contactless speaks to our user experience in terms of convenience to pay and how it resonates in our current sanitary context. For these reasons, and for many others, domestic and private label schemes are forced to adapt to the payment developments and must embrace contactless. While some initially enjoyed universal acceptance from a card issuance standpoint with contact cards, it actually stopped with contactless as contactless became a very competitive field where payment brands across the globe started to really differentiate. In a nutshell, with contactless, I, as a scheme, not only need a physical and digital card payment application to pay, but I now need to have what it takes in a terminal that actually speaks to my brand. What made the initial success of EMV contact card adoption was somehow lost on the way to contactless payments, forcing domestic brands to embrace the increased complexity of selecting the right technology that will fuel their innovation roadmap and make them exist as a brand in the terminals. Next slide, please. So what were these options actually? Domestic brands, local brands, and private label schemes turn to when willing to embrace contactless? Well, there were actually threefolds that we've summarized here. They had the option to invest in building their own technology. That came with also the fact that they needed to maintain it and that they needed to onboard vendors for implementation. The second option was to embark on a contactless technology roadmap from other established schemes under specific agreements that were through either schemes technology, such as international schemes, or privately owned technology from private companies, again, under specific agreements. In a nutshell, the options were either to choose an expensive build, be ready to invest over the long run, maintaining a technology framework, or kind of lose a bit of independence and leave the control of their roadmap to actually other players. This option proved rather successful, let's be clear, for some domestic schemes, yet speaking to many others, we realized there was a space for a fresh alternative that would enable fast deployments of contactless while safeguarding the independence for these schemes and enabling them the capacity to stay in control of their technology roadmap. So this is how WLA idea originated, with the development and the maintenance of an open contactless payment standard based on EMV that enables contactless payments while safeguarding independence. So what is WLA really? WLA was incorporated as a non-economic association founded by three key players in the industry: IDEMIA, Giesecke and Devrient, and NXP Semiconductors. It is a non-economic association headquartered in Munich, Germany. As you will see next, WLA has not been incorporated with an objective to start building something. As a matter of fact, we did not wait to publicly launch the association to build the technology and to deploy it. For doing so, we've partnered with TestLab FIM, an independent certification body, PayCert, to operate a full WLS certification framework. We have also publicly announced a partnership with JCB to offer an open contactless trajectory to the WLA members. And these members, who are they? So who does actually WLA speaks to? So I've mentioned that the association has been incorporated by European players in Germany. Yet the objective of WLA is not to be a European play. We are reaching out to globally to members worldwide, either members that are implementing the technology. It is a technology that is open to all card vendors, terminal vendors, and chip manufacturers, as well as users of the standards and service providers building services on the standard. As you will see next, WLA is a member-driven association. It means that it's fueled by its members' contribution to the standards. But before jumping into operational topics, I will now leave the floor to Charalampos Karagiannis from Giesecke and Devrient, who will share more on the WLA value proposal. Babis, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jacques. Hello also from my side. I'm very pleased to be with you today. My name is Charalampos or Babis Karagiannis, and I represent G&D as a board director of WLA. So as mentioned by Jacques, WLA's main goal is to address the demand for access to a contactless technology framework that is independent, yet standardized and following industry's widely adopted standards, EMV, by making available the standard following three key principles: independence, openness, and driven by members. How do we plan to do that though? Next slide, please. Firstly, by designing a complete own white label payment solution, which is free for all members, and that will continuously evolve its specification and certification processes in order to always ensure interoperability and enable fast implementations. Second, by promoting the standard at a worldwide level. Indeed, there is no limitation of who can join the association. It is available for all domestic schemes, private label issuers around the world, or any other entity that intend to leverage EMV in order to build new or upgrade current systems in place. But not only. It is also addressing any like-minded stakeholder of the payment ecosystem who wants to leverage the standard and build a portfolio based on it. Last, by introducing innovation in line with its member needs. WLA members commit in the expansion of the framework by actively contributing in the evolution of it. And also the fact that the association is open to all stakeholders of the industry, card vendors, terminals, chip manufacturers, schemes, integrators, will ensure on one side the independent and fast integration, and on the other side, the broad availability of the required components. Next slide, please. So the WLA payment framework covers the key components required for a complete white label solution, which are card and mobile devices, but also acceptance devices, terminals. More specifically, WLA owns and make available to its members an already ready to use set of application specifications specifically for cards, contact and contactless, mobile, and also for terminals, a contactless kernel. Next to each specification, WLA also maintains and makes available test plans and the certification framework run by an independent certification body, PayCert, and laboratories, FIN, in order to ensure the interoperability across various components and from different implementers. Here, it is also important to highlight that schemes and private label issuers will also be able to use the certification framework without the need to build and maintain their own, which can be costly to set up, to maintain, to evolve it. So in parallel with the launch of WLA, as you might have seen, we were also thrilled to announce the strategic agreement signed with JCB, an EMV co-member. Under this agreement, any WLA member is entitled to use JCB's contactless kernel and benefit from the wide availability of it in the terminals, which will accelerate the technology adoption and shorten the time to market. The collaboration model also agreed between JCB and WLA will ensure that the WLA specification and the JCB's kernel will be interoperable through the revolution. But what does this agreement mean for WLA and specifically for entities that intend to leverage the complete technology framework, cards, mobile, and kernel, for example, schemes? It means that when they are WLA members, they have two options about which technology to use for their brand's acceptance. On one side, WLA's own native kernel, which is already implemented and available, but also the kernel from JCB that as an international brand is already widely available in the terminals at a worldwide level. We are very happy for this agreement, and we are confident that in line with WLA's goal, will make any WLA member benefit and achieve their targets. So we openly invite you to join WLA and benefit from a standard that is free of charge for any WLA member, is co-owned by all WLA members, making it completely independent by any third party, be it a scheme or a vendor. Indeed, the standard belongs to WLA, hence equally to all members. A standard that lowers the cost of ownership of the technology, as the technology is maintained over time through mutual investments of WLA members. Actually, the membership fees are the only form of funding that allows WLA to operate and maintain its framework. And last, a standard that ensures the time to market thanks to ready-to-implement specification and ready-to-use certification, a broad availability of components ensuring an open market, and the certification that ensures interoperability, and of course, the JCB agreement, which gives the right to use of JCB's contactless kernel, which is already available at a quite big share of terminals around the globe. Thank you. Gerald?
Thanks a lot, Babis. So I'm Gerald Schaffler from NXP Semiconductors, and happy to be here today and present you on how the WLA is organized and how it's intended to deal with the members and what memberships we are offering. So as Babis already mentioned, generally we are open to all companies that want to join to WLA. So there are no limitations on any company to join. That's also reflected by the membership levels that we are offering depending on the needs of the specific companies. So for all membership levels, what's in common is that every member has the access to the specifications, has the allowance to use them, to implement them, to certify products based on these certifications, and for sure also sell those products on a worldwide basis without any limitation. The entry-level membership is the associate membership, where associates are typically companies that are mainly intending to implement the specification and to bring products to the market based on these specifications. So they will have access to the spec, have the right to certify, as already mentioned. On the next level, the contributing membership is intended for companies and specifically also for users of the technology like schemes to contribute with their ideas and to shape the future evolution of the specification to make sure that it's fulfilling the requirements of the users and of the schemes using the technology in their specific region or countries or in their setup. And by this also contributing to the working groups, where I will come back later on what working groups we are currently offering, and evolve the specification itself, the feature set of the specification and of the application, but also the certification framework to allow perfect use of what's available via the WLA to its members. The highest level of the membership is then the sponsor member, and a sponsor member additionally commits on contributing to the working groups, but also has the right to send a person to the board, where in the board itself the decisions are done on which suggestions are finally implemented and coming to the latest evolutions and in the latest spec updates, where the journey goes from WLA on a decision point of view. Additionally, next to the working groups or next to the members that are sending persons to the working groups, there is a possibility to have advisors or observers in the working group. They are typically requested by the work groups and invited then by the board to participate and to share experience for the specification and the other working groups, and to make sure that we have the chance to really embrace all the knowledge from the market to evolve the technology to the shape that it's needed by the members and by the users of the application. Last but not least, the Execution Bureau, who helps in execution topics in the organization and driving the operational topics of such an association. There is one specific requirement for sponsor members that we are applying. I mean, as said, generally the association is open for all members, so everybody is allowed to join. There is no restriction on this one. For sponsor members, we are asking for fully promoting and supporting the WLA technology so that the association is able to operate in the environment. The working groups currently available are 3, so that's the specification working group, mainly taking care on how the specifications will evolve. So as Babis and Jacques already mentioned, there is a first set of specification that is already released. But for sure, it's depending on the members' needs and contributions on where the journey goes to, so what features will come in the future. And in this working group, also innovation ideas shall be placed and will be raised for future implementations. Next to this, the certification working group is taking care on one hand that the certification framework fits the needs and follows the specifications, but also here to fulfill the needs of the members on the certification framework and to ensure that the certification framework also again fits the needs of the members. And last but not least, the marketing work group taking care about PRs, promotion, or organizing events like this one to bring the technology to a wide audience. To have a little bit more details on the membership levels, so most of this I already mentioned. What's on top here to be visible is the current membership fees. Also here, Babis and Jacques mentioned already, we are a non-commercial or non-profit organization. So it's not the intention of WLA itself to sell something. We are solely financed by the membership fees, and these membership fees are used to have the organization operational on one hand, but also to make sure that certification framework, certification tools, test tools, and so on are maintained and can be brought then in the next step free of charge to all the members for their use. With a relative low entry barrier, so that means for associate members, companies that mainly focusing on developing products and selling products under the WLA brand, the entry level is 5K euro per year. And for contributing members, it's then 30K. For sponsor members, currently 45K. And for sure, based on the non-profit organization, this is subject to be reviewed then also in the board amongst all members on what levels of membership fees are required in the future to keep the organization operational. So to repeat, we are open to all industry players. I think this is also one of the differences to other existing organizations today. We are inviting schemes themselves, so the users of the technology that set up their payment system, but also financial institutions, issuers, acquirers to bring their ideas and to utilize the technology we are providing, as well as vendors that are developing the products that are needed, and service providers like processors or laboratories to also improve and contribute to the complete framework so that the complete industry is represented in the WLA and is able to contribute and to shape the association's way forward. So last but not least, so we are looking forward to your interest. How does it work to join the WLA? You can do this already now. So simply look at our webpage, wlapayment.org, complete the form that you're interested. We will contact you for a discovery call to clarify all the details, to clarify your needs, and to start and proceed with the onboarding of you. And I'm looking forward to have you in the joint effort and as part of the journey. So thanks a lot for this.